The truth about the Deer Park chemical fire. So I live about 5 minutes from this plant. Maybe a little more than 5 minutes. Less than 10 minutes. And I work about a little over 10 miles from where this plant went ablaze. And that's pictured here to my right. It's where I work. And that's what I saw Monday morning as it was burning. And all of that has precipitated down onto a giant lot of cars where I work. And a couple days later, today's Wednesday, so about 2 days after this picture was taken, if you go to the cars that are on the lot and rub your fingers along the paint and the covers, they're all greasy, and there's like a oily film on every single car. And it's like, oh, all that pollution is just like fallout. It's just precipitated onto all the cars, and we were probably breathing all that shit all day while we were working. So the point I'm trying to make here is that pollution, air quality and water quality, the industries, power in the state, zoning laws, and corruption, all of these issues are political issues. These issues are implemented, discussed, resolved, and carried out all at the state level, and they're carried out by people that we elect. So if we care about the quality of our air, water, soil, industries, our homes, and our ecosystems, we need to be taking a serious look at the people in elected office. Let me see. Let's go into it. So, timetable for Deer Park chemical blaze indefinite as fire grows. This was yesterday. The fire has gone out during the night. But here's what these guys say at the Chronicle. Unlike invisible benzene discharges in East Houston or a gasoline leak into Buffalo Bayou after Hurricane Harvey, the Deer Park conflagration has sent a foreboding plume of dark smoke over Harris County, visible more than 30 miles away. Unlike invisible benzene discharges. That's an interesting phrase, because if you look here, this was today. And this is a shelter-in-place that was issued at another plant at Shell and Deer Park.
Back
Let's
now
listen
to our big stories from the Deer Park
what they have
area.
to say.
Air 11 live over the ITC facility where that 3-day-old blaze is now out. The investigation into what caused it is underway. You can see foam is continuously sprayed onto the facility to prevent a reflash. We are monitoring conditions just down the road at the Shell facility as well. That is about 4 miles away. Shell Deer Park has a partial shelter in place just at the facility due to elevated benzene levels. Benzene, a dangerous carcinogen that was also released at ITC. We'll update you all afternoon on KHOU.com and the KHOU.
So did you hear that last part? It was also released at ITC. ITC is Intercontinental Terminals Company. That's the plant that was on fire for those 3 days. The one that these guys are saying wasn't present in the plume of smoke hovering over these counties. So, one news company says no benzene. The other one says benzene was present. Listen to it again.
Just at the facility due to elevated benzene levels. Benzene, a dangerous carcinogen that was also released at ITC.
And it's a dangerous carcinogen.
KHOU.com.
So that's what was released into the air all over the Houston area. Okay, so we know the air is polluted from the fire. We know that these chemicals are carcinogenic, that they're not good to breathe. We have people complaining about itchy, watery eyes, upper respiratory breathing issues, all kinds of problems, and that they're saying, the city is saying, is just elevated pollen levels, nothing to worry about, and that the air quality is fine. So, who's responsible for monitoring air quality in Texas? The TCEQ. In the past, has butted heads with the EPA, with the groups fighting over who has the ultimate say-so in Texas. So, the TCEQ, as this article states, is very business friendly. It has butted heads with the EPA under the Obama administration. But, as this article states, look, it says, it has changed under the current administration, with the EPA looking a lot more like the TCEQ. This is the EPA and the TCEQ getting along like they should be, right? But they're both business friendly now. They're going to side with the industry, with ITC. So they have some help, right? Because TCEQ is supposed to be monitoring the air quality, but they have some help. ITC has hired its own firm to test the air. So you can just rely on the reporting of the ITC hired firm. You can rely on their data, I'm sure. And the TCEQ monitoring is so obsolete. I mean, it's nothing compared to what NASA has, for example. During Hurricane Harvey, NASA wanted to test the air quality with one of their drones that can test for up to 450 different compounds in the air. And I think the TCEQs maybe has a dozen at best that it can detect. Who knows how well it's equipped to detect those? But it's laughable. The TCEQ is underfunded and corrupt. So you can't really trust them when they say the air quality is safe. And let's take a look at ITC, the company responsible for this fire. This article says avoidable events led to violations at ITC. This is by Corey McCord. So, Intercontinental Terminals Company has paid $38,300 for infractions committed since 2009, according to the TCEQ. So, you see, these fines, $38,000, since over 10 years, these companies are making billions. These fines are slaps on the wrist, at best. They don't do anything to affect these companies' bottom line. It was fined most recently in 2017. In that mishap, ITC was fined for failing to comply with permitted effluent limitations for daily cyanide. And if you go on down here to look at this picture, look at how close all these tanks are in this tiny space. What started as a 1 or 2 tank fire expanded to 5 and then possibly as many as 8 tanks in a 15 tank cluster. There should not be all these tanks close to each other. There should be some distance here to keep the fire from spreading, keep accidents like this from getting worse. But Texas has no zoning laws, really. And they let these industries get away with whatever they want as far as violating safety and pollution standards. So, what do we know? We know that the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality is a joke. They didn't even monitor air pollution during Hurricane Harvey. In the aftermath of that, the governor actually just suspended the rules and the standards for monitoring the air quality for about 7 months after Hurricane Harvey. So, no data on that. They didn't even let NASA test for it. So these guys are not concerned about air pollution. And they will side with the industry over what's actually going on in Houston or anywhere in Texas. So we know that the chemicals that were in these tanks, a lot of them are carcinogenic. Multiple counties in this giant plume of smoke that precipitated down and that people were breathing in. Many reports of eyes and upper respiratory irritation. And we know that this is a political issue. That these people were allowed by the state of Texas to get away with these unsafe practices, to allow this accident to happen, and to have it so that it just gets out of control. They can't put it out, and it has to burn for 3 days. And we suffer the consequences. We're breathing the air. And it's going to get in the water. We don't know how it's going to affect the water yet and the soil. And so what do? You have to vote in 2020 for candidates who don't take fossil fuel money, who aren't corrupt. All of these Texas Republicans take fossil fuel money. And the Democratic Party of Texas doesn't have a no fossil fuel pledge. Beto O'Rourke takes money from fossil fuel executives. So we need to be looking at alternatives to the establishment candidates that can actually go into office with a mandate from the people and not take fossil fuel money and work to regulate them so that stuff like this doesn't happen anymore. You need to look in your area for people running, particularly who are DSA candidates, Democratic Socialists of America, because they pledge to not take any fossil fuel money. And there's a Democratic Socialist running for Senate against John Cornyn, who takes a lot of money from the fossil fuel industry. Sima Hernandez is running against John Cornyn for Senate in 2020, and you should go to her page, learn more about her. She wants to give Texans health care. She wants a Green New Deal. And that would address a lot of these issues that we see in the wake of this fire, to create a new green economy that's much safer than the industries that dominate this area of Texas. So learn more about DSA candidates in your area. Learn about Sima Hernandez, Sima for Texas, and vote for her in the upcoming Democratic primary and in the election in 2020.